Hey, how's it going? I hope you guys are getting ready for Thanksgiving this week. I don't know who I am today because this is my second video this week and I've never really, I don't think I've ever done that since I first started making videos of my plants, but I'm making this video because I recently added a plant to my wish list and I have come across it. So I came across an Epipremnum pinnatum, which Epipremnum is actually just the scientific term for pothos. It's like just the family term, and pothos is the more common name. But pinnatum is more specific to a specific pothos that the leaves are a lot more elongated, and once they start to mature, I think what I've heard is after like 20 years, they start to develop fenestration similar to a mini monstera or a Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. So they will develop these fenestration-like things on their leaves, just like this. Not exactly like this, but similar to how that happens. So, but I added it to my wish list, and I came across it a couple days later because I was on the mad hunt for it. So I do know that at some Home Depots they're selling them there, and you can get a pretty nice hanging basket of it. However, the plant family here in Chicago is ruthless, and I have since been able to find one. This morning I got up and went to I think 3 or 4 different Home Depots and a couple different nurseries to see if I could find any, and I couldn't at all. So these ones are, what I have to show you today are things that I bought from Facebook Marketplace. I was able to contact a lady and she gave me 2 nice vines here. Two nice vines here with pretty substantial root system. Can you see that? So she just handed them off to me. I paid $10 for the 2 of these, which isn't bad, you know, for the demand that is here and the lack of supply thereof. So I'm not too upset about that. So I brought them home, put them right into water while I found some time to make this video and repot them. I also found these ones here. These are some clippings. You can tell that the leaves are a little bit smaller, but these have definitely developed all of the roots here at the bottom. That one really well too. So these ones are definitely ready to be potted up. And since this vine already has a root system developed, I'm going to go ahead and pot it up as well. But I've chosen, I think this is a 6-inch pot here. And obviously it's not going to look that full from what I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these vines and I'll wrap them around the pot, and I'll show you guys how I do that. But yeah, so these 2 that I got from a lady from Facebook Marketplace as well. She gave them both to me for 12 bucks. So, I mean, $25 for a 6-inch pot is not too bad in my opinion, for a plant that is in pretty high demand right now. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let's see, 3 minutes in. Let me see how I can time this right to 15 minutes. And if not, I'll have to make a second video. Hopefully I can. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Get my gloves on because I just got a manicure. I don't wanna mess up my nails. So, and I'm using some potting mix that is just, I'm gonna call it the runoff potting mix that I have just in my house or in my apartment, because you know some plants come and go, they don't take to the propagation that I do or whatever. So this is just a bunch of different mixture. I can't even tell you what's in here, but it's been working for majority of my plants, so I'm just gonna keep using it until I run out and have to get more. So we're gonna put a little bit in there, about 1 inch or so, just to cover the bottom so that the roots have something to grow into. Now, make that nice and pretty, nice little bed for them to lay in. You know what, I'm gonna need more soil because I had the mindset that I'm taking it from an existing plant, but there is none, so there's no old soil that I'm gonna be placing in here, if that makes sense. So, go and fill up the pot. That quite nicely here. Now I'm gonna uncut these cuttings here, and just be very gentle, because these roots have developed quite well into this cup, so I really don't want to damage the root system here at the bottom. Okay, so far so good. I'm gonna knock off this. This is some pretty high-grade moss that this lady was using on her plants. So knock off this soil here, or this moss rather. I'm gonna go ahead and stop it and come back because this is gonna take a little bit of time. Catch you guys in a second. Alright, we are back to continue this video. I went ahead and separated the cuttings that were rooted in the sphagnum moss. Took all the moss off, and I feel really bad for this mother plant that this lady propagated it from, because she literally took a vine and snipped every node and put it into this moss, which made it really difficult to untangle, really. But she took every node and just like chopped it up. This poor plant, you know? So, and I mean, a lot of them, I think almost every node was showing some type of growth of either shooting out a leaf or a root. So I'm just gonna put the ones that haven't necessarily rooted yet back into the sphagnum moss and let them do their thing. So it was only like 3 leaves and then a bunch of like the little nodes that are taken off of the vine. So poor mom plant. But I did get a lot of these babies off of there, and these have really, really healthy root systems. So we are ready to get potted and get into this. So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and do the vines first that are in this cup of water, get those around the plant and secure those in place. And then I will go ahead and put these little ones in like little, to fill in the center. I think that's gonna be the easiest course of action. So let's go ahead and do that. Get these out of the way. So I'm just gonna take, let's put our gloves on. Gotta protect the manicure. Man, taking that sphagnum moss off of all of those little cuttings was quite intense. I don't know if I'd ever want to do that again. So, all right, I'm gonna actually take off a little bit of this soil because I want the roots to be really submerged into the soil, and I don't want them to be too close to the surface and not really penetrate into that a little bit more actually. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna take a vine. I'm gonna use a stick that I have here and create a hole in the existing soil that in the soil that I have in this pot. I'm gonna shove the root system in there. Look at that. Look at how healthy that is. Yeah, we are ready. And this Epipremnum pinnatum is the cebu blue version of it, and they call it cebu because it's from the Philippines, and I'm half Filipino, so I'm really, really happy about having this plant in my collection because it's almost like a little bit of home, you know? Well, not home, I've never been there, but I'm always happy to have things. And a lot of actual tropical plants come from, you know, the islands, from Thailand, the Philippines, and stuff like that, because the environment there is just so pristine for a lot of tropical plants, the humidity and all that stuff. So this is proving to be a lot more challenging than I would thought it would be. I think it would be easier without gloves, so I can have better traction on these cuttings. Okay, so there we go. Yep. Gloves are nice, it's nice to protect the manicure, but you know what? Sometimes you just gotta get dirty with it. Let's see here. There we go. So I didn't get to bury the roots all that well with putting this vine in here, but I'm just gonna nuzzle them into the layer of soil that it's at right now, and just make sure that it's because I'm going to put soil on top of it, so I'm not too worried about getting the roots super deep in there right now. That's why I took some of the soil out. These roots, however, are not as established as the other one, but I can feel that the vine is fairly healthy, so I'm just going to go ahead and pot it up anyways. And so once I get these settled in here, then I'm going to go ahead and use a bobby pin, just a generic bobby pin, bend the joint past its limitation, so it just naturally stays at an open space. And I'm going to use that to press these vines into the soil and secure them in that space. This already looks so nice, and I'm super happy that I've decided to do this. Okay. So that's what it looks like for now. And now I'm just going to take those bobby pins like I had mentioned. Where did I put them? Bobby pins. Oh, here they are. So you just bend it past its normal V shape, so it just stays open, and then you just use it as a stake and just stake it into the soil. So just gonna stake it down in a few spots. I think one more should be just fine. Now, you want to be careful in not submerging too much of the new growth into the soil, because what will happen is the new growth will start growing into the soil. I mean, it'll naturally find its way out, but you really just want to give your plant as much a fighting chance as possible. So if you can, try to keep it facing up so that it continue growing up, or otherwise the plant will try to figure that out. And sometimes they don't get it right, you know? So I think it looks pretty good so far. And now I'm gonna use this dowel, not dowel, but this stick I have, obviously, and I'm gonna slide in these little cuttings here. I honestly am wondering if I'm gonna have enough space for all of these, honestly, because I don't know. You know what? I'm not gonna use this to like push down the roots, because one, I don't want to break the roots, and two, I'm gonna be filling in the soil, so I'll just lay them in there as they are, and the roots naturally will find their way down into the soil. So really excited to have this Cebu Blue Epipremnum pinnatum. Also, something I want to point out is that these pinnatums, we'll just call them pinnatums because Epipremnum is just the generic term for both those. But the pinnatums are hard to differentiate between a regular pinnatum and a Cebu Blue, especially when they're this young, this juvenile. So I very well could have a very generic pinnatum, but I think it's a Cebu Blue version, especially because it has that blue tint to it, but it can be hard to tell. So if you are interested in this plant, make sure you are looking into a reliable source for the plant, because there are a lot of scams out there. Like, people will just tell you whatever you want to hear because they want to make the sale, which is just really sad. This country is so built on capitalism, and it's really sickening. But yeah, so if you're interested in this plant, make sure you are getting it from a good source, and do your research. Do your research so you can spot, you know, a scam whenever you see it, because nobody's gonna hold your hand while you're shopping out, when you're out shopping for these plants, saying, no, that's a bad one because for X, Y, and Z. You know, you want to be able to be independent and make those decisions yourself. This is looking really full, which is great. So I don't even know if I'll have space for all of these, but I'm already at almost 10 minutes. So I'm gonna finish filling this in and I'll be back. All right, we are back, and I went ahead and stuffed all of the clippings in there and tried to fill up the center as much as I could. It'll be really interesting because I really don't remember or paid attention to how I was facing each of the vines, all the existing vines. So it'll be interesting to see which come out and spill over. I might have to, in the future, repot this and get those, or we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So now I'm gonna go ahead and fill in the soil. Now I'm gonna put on my gloves once again. And I'm just gonna do it by hand. Oh, you know what, I'm gonna use this cup without the sphagnum moss was in. It'll be easier to control. And let's get started. Just gonna dump it in and then maneuver the leaves around it later because the soil will just fall where it is. So you just wanna make sure you're good. Whatever, manicure's over. Manicure is done, which is fine. I got it done some time ago. So sometimes you want to give it a good shake. Let it settle. I have low battery, oh no. I'm sure we can get this finished in the allotted time that I have with this battery. So that's pretty good. This shaking method that I have, I'm not gonna say I invented, but that I am encouraging here is working awful well. So I'm just gonna put the soil in places that I don't necessarily see that it fell into. Around the edges more specifically. It'll be really interesting to see how this plant progresses because the vines of the ones that were in this glass here, the leaves were definitely more mature than the ones of the sphagnum moss cuttings that I've received. So it'll be nice to see how, you know, these two clippings, you know, marry in with each other, I guess you could say. This is looking quite good. Trying to see if I can see any leaves that, you know, may have been buried into the soil. So far so good. I do see some roots that are exposed a little bit. I'll go ahead and top those off. Man, I'm seeing a lot of like aquarium gravel in the soil. Because when I first started, I didn't really have perlite on hand when I was doing some repotting. And so I just used some aquarium gravel to give it some drainage. I mean, whatever works, right? It's rock, you know, nonetheless, you know, just as long as it's not treated with like chemicals or whatever, you know. So this is looking pretty good. I'm really happy with how this is coming out. So once this is all finished, once I've, you know, topped off the soil where I feel happy about it, I'm gonna give this a good water. And, you know, hopefully it takes, you know, and there's a possibility that it won't take. There's a possibility that, you know, some of these will rot out just because of the stress of the transplant and the, you know, disturbing the root system. This root system is very delicate, you know, system. So I'm really excited to see how this takes, and I'm hoping it does. It should, because it looks like it had some really substantial root systems that will be just fine. So yeah, this is it. And I will be sure to update you guys in a few months' time to let you guys know how it's taking. So it is. This is my Cebu Blue Epipremnum pinnatum, or just easier to say, Cebu Blue pothos. And at 20 years time, when I have a lot of gray hair, hopefully these leaves will have some really substantial fenestrations on them. So that'll be really exciting to see. But that'll be a long time from now, and hopefully I can maintain my hobby till then. But so long, I'll see you guys another time, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.